It's interesting what you find when you look in the looking glass, looking back. So yesterday we talked about the name of this account and how we found my grandmother's mirror, her hand mirror. And we talked about the age of this hand mirror. And I just realized if it was from the 20s, this is 100 years old, which is kind of like crazy. Anyway, through the looking glass, looking back, so it made me think about, what do I remember about my grandparents? And I was really blessed to have both sets of grandparents for many years of my life. Even though they were older, I got to spend some really valuable time with them. But what I thought about in their bedrooms. So my one grandmother, this was hers, and she was a school teacher and a librarian. And the crazy thing is, the library was in her house when I was a little girl. I think by the time I was in 6th grade, they built a town library, but her library was in the front room of her house. And I can smell those books right now because they weren't brand new books, but even new ones have their own smell, don't they? So the crazy thing was, I remember it was time for her to go to bed, and I'd go in before I went over to my room if I spent the night with her, and she'd be sitting there, and she would have a stack of books every night. And I'm like, how do you read those books every night? Obviously, she never gave me the answer. Obviously, she was just reading the intro, a little bit about the author, so she had an idea about them so she could tell people when they asked about it. But I thought she was reading 5 or 6 books a night, and I'm not talking about the little golden books that we all read. So that was the interesting story about her, the school teacher who had a library in her house and the books that she took to bed with her. My other grandmother had a beautiful set of these, and it was that French design. It was a little bit lighter color, more of a creamy one. The interesting thing about when they went to bed, she'd have the white sheets in her white room. She'd have a white nightgown on, and my grandfather had a white night shirt. But every night, my grandmother would get on her knees at the side of her bed and pray. That was like, she was telling us, you need to be quiet. It wasn't just a private time it was a private time, but she wasn't hiding it from anybody. Respect what I am doing now. I am talking to Jesus. So that was such a precious memory that came up because I was looking through the looking glass back at the 1950s and 60s. And then the other memory about her when it comes to praying was we always, I think until I was in the choir, up till 5th grade, I would sit with her and my grandparents, and she always had this little box, and you'd slide it out, and it had these really strong mints in there, like if you had a cough in there. She always had a linen or a beautiful handkerchief with the tatting around the edges, and we always sat in the same place. And so if you were a churchgoer, you'd probably realize that somehow we find our seats, and they are our seats. We don't pay for them. We sit up front. I don't pay a lot of money because I'm up front. But we always have those same seats, don't we? So tell me, what do you remember about nighttime when you spent time with your grandparents? What were their nighttime going to bed activities? And did you go to church with them? And did you always sit in that same seat? So put that in the comments. I'd love to hear. I think other people would too. So we're back in time. We're looking back in time through our mirror, and no controversy today, no myths that I'm breaking, just some sweet memories. So have a great day. Talk to you later.